Catholicism and its adjectival form Catholic are used as broad terms for describing specific traditions in the Christian churches in theology, doctrine, liturgy, ethics, and spirituality. Catholicism and Catholic, in this sense, refer to the practices of several Christian churches. This sense is to be distinguished from the use of these words to refer to the Roman Catholic Church, that which is in full communion with the Holy See, as well as the Orthodox Catholic Church, which also considers itself the universal and apostolic Church, in the sense of indicating historical continuity of faith and practice from the first millennium. The term Catholic is employed by many other historic churches which claim to be heirs of the apostolic faith. These consider themselves to be Catholic, teaching that the term designates the historic, orthodox mainstream of Christianity whose doctrine was defined by the ecumenical councils and creeds, and as such, most reformers appealed to this Catholic tradition and believed they were in continuity with it within the Anglican Communion. The Oxford movement promoted Anglo-Catholicism, which re-emphasized the importance of doctrines such as the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist and apostolic succession. The Roman Catholic Church teaches that Protestant churches are not in fact churches, as they do not have apostolic tradition of ordinations, and therefore do not have valid Eucharist, nor are they in full communion with the successor of St. Peter, the Pope. It does, however, recognize the shared apostolic tradition of the Eastern Orthodox Church, whilst it maintains that all salvation comes through the Church. This leaves scope for the salvation of other Christians with an imperfect communion with the Roman Catholic Church, i.e., Protestants. History of the term Catholic. The earliest evidence of the use of the term Catholic Church is the letter to the Smyrnians that Ignatius of Antioch wrote in about 108 to Christians in Smyrna. Exhorting Christians to remain closely united with their bishop, he wrote, "Wherever the bishop shall appear, there let the multitude of the people also be, even as, wherever Jesus Christ is, there is the Catholic Church." From the second half of the 2nd century, the word began to be used to mean orthodox, because Catholics claim to teach the whole truth, and to represent the whole Church, while heresy arose out of the exaggeration of some one truth and was essentially partial and local. In 380, Emperor Theodosius I limited use of the term Catholic Christian exclusively to those who followed the same faith as Pope Damasus I of Rome and Pope Peter of Alexandria. Numerous other early writers, including Cyril of Jerusalem, Augustine of Hippo, further developed the use of the term Catholic in relation to Christianity. Divergent interpretations. Many individual Christians and Christian denominations consider themselves Catholic on the basis, in particular, of apostolic succession. They fall into 5 groups. The Roman Catholic Church, which sees full communion with the Bishop of Rome as an essential element of Catholicism. Its constituent particular churches have distinct and separate jurisdictions, while still being in union with Rome. Those, like the Eastern Orthodox and Oriental Orthodox, that claim unbroken apostolic succession from the early Church and identify themselves as the Catholic Church. Those, such as the Old Catholic, Anglican and some Lutheran and other denominations, that claim unbroken apostolic succession from the early Church and see themselves as a constituent part of the Church. Those who claim to be spiritual descendants of the apostles but have no discernible institutional descent from the historic Church and normally do not refer to themselves as Catholic. Those who have acknowledged a break in apostolic succession, but have restored it in order to be in full communion with bodies that have maintained the practice. Examples in this category include the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America and the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Canada vis-a-vis their Anglican and Old Catholic counterparts. For some confessions listed under Category 3, The self-affirmation refers to the belief in the ultimate unity of the universal church under one God and one Savior, rather than in one visibly unified institution. In this usage, Catholic is sometimes written with a lowercase c. The Western Apostles' Creed and the Nicene Creed, stating, "I believe in one holy Catholic Church," are recited in worship services. Among some denominations in Category 3, Christian is substituted for Catholic, in order to denote the doctrine that the Christian Church is, at least ideally, undivided. Roman Catholic Church in its letter on some aspects of the Church understood as communion. The Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith stressed that the idea of the universal Church as a communion of churches must not be presented as meaning that every particular church is a subject complete in itself, and that the universal church is the result of a reciprocal recognition on the part of the particular churches. It insisted that the universal church cannot be conceived as the sum of the particular churches, or as a federation of particular churches. The Roman Catholic Church considers Protestant and Anglican Christians who are not in communion with the See of Rome to be non-Catholics. It does not consider their churches to be genuine churches and so uses the term ecclesial communities to refer to them. It considers a valid episcopate and Eucharist as necessary prerequisites for being a church. Because the Roman Catholic Church does not consider these church bodies to have valid episcopal orders capable of celebrating a valid Eucharist, it does not classify them as churches, in the proper sense. The Roman Catholic Church's doctrine of infallibility derives from the belief the authority that Jesus gave Peter as head of the Church on earth has been passed on to his successors, the popes. Relevant Bible verses include Matthew chapter 16 verse 18, "And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." Latin and Eastern Catholic Churches. The Latin and Eastern Catholic Churches together to form the Catholic Church, or Roman Catholic Church, the world's largest single religious body and the largest Christian church, as well as its largest Catholic Church, comprising over half of all Christians and nearly 1/6 of the world's population. Richard McBrien would put the proportion even higher, extending it to those who are in communion with the Bishop of Rome only in degrees. It comprises 24 component, particular churches, all of which acknowledge a primacy of jurisdiction of the Bishop of Rome and are in full communion with the Holy See and each other. These particular churches or component parts are the Latin Rite or Western Church and 23 Eastern Catholic Churches. Of the latter particular churches, 14 use the Byzantine liturgical rite. Within the Church as a whole, each particular church, whether Eastern or Western, is of equal dignity. Finally, in its official documents, the Church, though made up of several particular churches, continues to refer to itself as the Catholic Church, or, less frequently but consistently, as the Roman Catholic Church, owing to its essential link with the Bishop of Rome. McBrien, in his book Catholicism, disagrees with the Church's usage of referring to itself as Roman Catholic, saying, "But is Catholic synonymous with Roman Catholic? And is it accurate to refer to the Roman Catholic Church as simply the Roman Church?" The answer to both questions is no. The adjective Roman applies more properly to the diocese, or see, of Rome than to the worldwide communion of Catholic churches that is in union with the Bishop of Rome. Indeed, it strikes some Catholics as contradictory to call the Church Catholic and Roman at one and the same time. Eastern Rite Catholics, of whom there are more than 20 million, also find the adjective Roman objectionable. In addition to the Latin, or Roman, tradition, there are 7 non-Latin, non-Roman ecclesial traditions: Armenian, Byzantine, Coptic, Ethiopian, East Syrian, West Syrian, and Maronite. Each to the churches with these non-Latin traditions is as Catholic as the Roman Catholic Church. Thus, Not all Catholics are Roman Catholic, thus, to be Catholic, whether Roman or non-Roman, in the ecclesiological sense is to be in full communion with the Bishop of Rome and as such to be an integral part of the Catholic communion of churches, in spite of McBrien's affirmation that, on an official level, what he calls the communion of Catholic churches always refers to itself as the Catholic Church. The term Roman Catholic Church is in fact, as seen above, used by popes and departments of the Holy See. The Latin Rite Archdiocese of Detroit lists 8 Eastern churches, each with its own bishop, as having one or more parishes in what is also the territory of the Latin Archdiocese. Yet each is designated as being in full communion with the Roman Church, Eastern Orthodoxy. The Eastern Orthodox Church also maintains that it is the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, regarding Rome as a schismatic see that has violated the essential Catholicity of the Christian faith by introducing innovations of doctrine. Orthodox Christians consider themselves the heirs of the first millennium patriarchal structure that developed in the Eastern Church into the model of the 5 patriarchal sees recognized by ecumenical councils, a theory that continues to hold sway in official Greek circles to the present day, but not in the Western Church, which preferred the theory of the primacy of the Bishop of Rome, ultramontanism to conciliarism. The title, Patriarch of the West, was rarely used by the popes until the 16th and 17th centuries, and was included in the Annuario Pontificio from 1863 to 2005, being dropped in the following year as never very clear, and having become over history, obsolete and practically unusable. Other traditions within Western Christianity, the churches of the Anglican Communion, continuing Anglicanism, the Old Catholics, the Liberal Catholic Church, the Augustana Catholic Church, the Apostolic Catholic Church, the Alipayans, the African Orthodox Church, the Polish National Catholic Church of America, and many independent Catholic churches, which emerged directly or indirectly from and have beliefs and practices largely similar to Latin Rite Catholicism, regard themselves as Catholic, without full communion with the Bishop of Rome, whose claimed status and authority they generally reject. The Chinese Patriotic Catholic Association, a division of the People's Republic of China's Religious Affairs Bureau exercising state supervision over mainland China's Catholics, holds a similar position, while attempting, as with Buddhism and Protestantism, to indoctrinate and mobilize for Communist Party objectives. Anglicanism. Introductory works on Anglicanism, such as the study of Anglicanism, typically refer to the character of the Anglican tradition as Catholic and Reformed, which is in keeping with the understanding of Anglicanism articulated in the Elizabethan settlement of 1559 and in the works of the earliest standard Anglican divines such as Richard Hooker and Lancelot Andrewes. Yet different strains in Anglicanism, dating back to the English Reformation, have emphasized either the Reformed Catholic or Reformed Catholic nature of the tradition. Anglican theology and ecclesiology has thus come to be typically expressed in 3 distinct, yet sometimes overlapping manifestations: Anglo-Catholicism, Evangelicalism, and Latitudinarianism, whose beliefs and practices fall somewhere between the two, though all elements within the Anglican Communion recite the same creeds. Evangelical Anglicans generally regard the word Catholic in the ideal sense given above. In contrast, Anglo-Catholics regard the Communion as a component of the whole Catholic Church, in spiritual and historical union with the Roman Catholic, Old Catholic and several Eastern churches. Broad Church Anglicans tend to maintain a mediating view, or consider the matter one of adiaphora. These Anglicans, for example, have agreed in the Pourvoir Agreement to interchangeable ministries and full Eucharistic communion with Lutherans. The Catholic nature or strain of the Anglican tradition is expressed doctrinally, ecumenically, ecclesiologically, and in liturgy and piety. Some Anglo-Catholics maintain belief in the 7 sacraments, though the 39 articles hold that there are but 2. Many Anglo-Catholics practice Marian devotion, recite the Rosary and the Angelus, practice Eucharistic adoration, and seek the intercession of saints. In terms of liturgy, most Anglicans use candles on the altar or communion table, and many churches use incense and bells in the Eucharist, which is amongst the most pronounced Anglo-Catholics referred to by the Latin-derived word Mass, used in the First Prayer Book and in the American Prayer Book of 1979. In numerous churches the Eucharist is celebrated facing the altar by a priest assisted by a deacon and subdeacon. Some Anglicans believe in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. However, different Eucharistic rites or orders contain different, if not necessarily contradictory, understandings of salvation. For this reason, no single strain or manifestation of Anglicanism can speak for the whole, even in ecumenical statements. The growth of Anglo-Catholicism is strongly associated with the Oxford movement of the 19th century. 2 of its leading lights, John Henry Newman and Henry Edward Manning, both priests, ended up joining the Roman Catholic Church, becoming cardinals. Others, like John Keble, Edward Bouverie Pusey, and Charles Gore, became influential figures in Anglicanism. The previous Archbishop of Canterbury, Rowan Williams, is a patron of the Anglican organization, affirming Catholicism, a more liberal movement within Catholic Anglicanism. Conservative Catholic groups also exist within the tradition, such as Forward in Faith. There are about 80 million Anglicans in the Anglican Communion, comprising 3.6% of global Christianity. Protestantism. Within Protestantism, the word Catholic is generally taken in the sense of universal, and in this sense many leading Protestant denominations identify themselves as part of the Catholic Church. The Puritan Westminster Confession of Faith, adopted in 1646, states, for example, that the Catholic or universal Church, which is invisible, consists of the whole number of the elect that have been, are, or shall be gathered into one, under Christ the head thereof, and is the spouse, the body, the fullness of him that fills all in all. The London Confession of the Baptists repeats this with the emendation, which may be called invisible. The Church of Scotland's articles declaratory begin, "The Church of Scotland is part of the Holy Catholic or Universal Church." Certain Lutheran churches, including the Church of Sweden and several small American churches of recent origin, such as the Lutheran Orthodox Church and the Anglo-Lutheran Catholic Church, consider themselves to be Catholic. There are more high church groups among the traditional Protestant churches with a broader attachment to older ideas. For example, the 20th century High Church Lutheranism movement developed an evangelical Catholicity, combining justification by faith with Roman doctrine on sacraments, in some cases also restoring lacking apostolic succession, especially in Germany. In Reformed churches there is a Scoto-Catholic grouping within the Presbyterian Church of Scotland. Such groups point to their church's continuing adherence to the Catholic doctrine of the early church councils. The Articles Declaratory of the Constitution of the Church of Scotland of 1921 defines that church legally as part of the Holy Catholic or Universal Church. Views of individual scholars. Richard McBrien considers that the term Catholicism refers exclusively and specifically to that communion of Catholic churches, in communion with the Bishop of Rome. According to McBrien, Catholicism is distinguished from other forms of Christianity in its particular understanding and commitment to tradition, the sacraments, the mediation between God, communion, and the See of Rome. According to Bishop Callisto Swear, the Orthodox Church has these things as well, though the primacy of the See of Rome is only honorific, showing non-jurisdictional respect for the Bishop of Rome as the first among equals, and Patriarch of the West. Catholicism, according to McBrien's paradigm, includes a monastic life, religious institutes, a religious appreciation of the arts, a communal understanding of sin and redemption, and missionary activity. Henry Mills Alden, in Harper's New Monthly Magazine, writes that the various Protestant sects cannot constitute one church because they have no intercommunion. Each Protestant church, whether Methodist or Baptist or whatever, is in perfect communion with itself everywhere as the Roman Catholic, and in this respect, consequently, the Roman Catholic has no advantage or superiority, except in the point of numbers. As a further necessary consequence, it is plain that the Roman Church is no more Catholic in any sense than a Methodist or a Baptist. Henry Mills Alden, Harper's New Monthly Magazine, Volume 37, Issues 217 to 222. As such, according to this viewpoint, for those who belong to the Church, the term Methodist Catholic, or Presbyterian Catholic, or Baptist Catholic, is as proper as the term Roman Catholic. It simply means that body of Christian believers over the world who agree in their religious views, and accept the same ecclesiastical forms.